You are going to die with your best ideas still inside you. Read that again. Sit with it for 1 second before you skip past it, because that sentence is going to be true for most people watching this video right now. And the scary part is this: it will not be true because they weren't smart enough. It will be true because they were smart enough to convince themselves that thinking about the idea was almost the same as doing it. Somewhere out there is a person with less talent than you, less knowledge than you, a slower mind than yours in almost every measurable way. And that person is going to build the thing you keep dreaming about. Not because they figured out something you don't already know, because they stopped waiting to feel ready. Machiavelli did not study saints. He studied real men who clawed their way to power, and he noticed something brutal and honest about human nature. The sharpest mind in the room rarely wins. The boldest one does. He watched clever advisors get replaced by decisive fools. He watched cautious leaders lose their thrones to men who simply moved first. 500 years later, the pattern hasn't changed at all. Only the stage has. In the next few minutes, we're going to rip apart the biggest lie smart people believe about themselves. The lie that understanding something is the same as achieving it. We're going to walk through the exact psychological traps quietly stealing years from talented minds, and by the end, you'll know precisely which one has its hooks in you. Stay with me, because this gets uncomfortable fast, and the discomfort is the point. If you're ready to stop being the smartest person who never finished anything, drop this in the comments right now. I refuse to stay stuck. Let's begin. Number 1. The lie that intelligence is enough. What happened to every kid who got called gifted? Not all of them, but go find them now 20 or 30 years later, and a strange number of them are just fine, ordinary, sitting somewhere in the middle, wondering what happened to all that promise everyone kept talking about. A researcher named Lewis Terman ran one of the longest studies in the history of psychology. He handpicked over 1,500 children with sky-high IQ scores back in the 1920s, convinced he had found the future's greatest minds. He tracked them for decades, waiting to watch genius turn into greatness. Most of them lived comfortable, unremarkable lives. A few struggled badly. And a handful of kids who were tested for the study and rejected because their scores weren't quite high enough went on to accomplish more than almost every certified genius Terman had personally chosen. Kids who didn't even make the cut ended up outpacing the ones who did, at the exact thing intelligence was supposed to guarantee. That's not an accident. That's a pattern showing up everywhere you look, in every field, in every generation. Talent hands you a head start. It does not hand you the finish line. A fast car with no driver just sits in the garage looking impressive. Somebody still has to turn the key, put it in gear, and drive it somewhere, through traffic, through wrong turns, through the boring stretches of highway where nothing exciting happens for miles. If your gifts have been sitting in the garage while other people are already 3 towns over, drop this in the comments. Potential means nothing without action. And the part that stings the most is this. It's not that these gifted people are secretly lazy. Most of them work incredibly hard inside their own heads. They analyze constantly. They optimize constantly. They notice flaws nobody else even sees. That kind of mental effort feels like work because, in a way, it is work. Just not the kind that produces anything anyone can point to. Think about a person who can look at almost any skill and instantly understand the theory behind it. The mechanics, the technique, the shortcuts, the mistakes beginners make. That understanding is genuinely rare and genuinely valuable, but understanding a skill and possessing a skill live in completely different places. One lives in your head, the other lives in your hands, your habits, your hours logged. A person can explain exactly how to throw a perfect punch and still get knocked flat by someone who has actually thrown 10,000 of them. That gap between knowing and doing is where so many bright people quietly disappear for years. Nobody sees it happening from the outside because thinking looks like nothing at all. There's no visible struggle, no dramatic collapse, just a slow, silent stall that stretches out until one day the calendar says 10 years passed and the hands never caught up with the head. Number 2. When intelligence becomes a comfortable escape. There's a trap almost nobody warns you about, and it's sneaky because it feels like the opposite of laziness. You watch a video on how to get faster at running, and you feel faster already. You read about how discipline works, and you feel disciplined. You study the mechanics of a new skill for 3 hours straight, and you feel like you just put in real work. But check the clock, check the actual result, and something strange shows up. Nothing moved. Your legs didn't run 1 extra mile. Your hands didn't practice 1 extra chord. You just understood something, and somehow that understanding felt like enough. The reason is simple. Your brain doesn't cleanly separate learning about a thing from doing the thing. Both light up similar reward pathways. Both give you a little hit of satisfaction. And for a mind that picks up new information fast, that hit comes cheap and often. No risk, no sore muscles, no failed attempt, no embarrassment. Just a clean, comfortable little reward over and over for doing almost nothing. Picture 2 runners training for the same distance. One spends every evening reading about running form, studying elite athletes, mapping the optimal training plan down to the smallest detail. The other laces up their shoes on day 1 and runs a slow, ugly, out-of-breath mile. A year later, the second runner has thousands of real miles in their legs, real blisters, real lessons learned the hard way. The first one still has the perfect plan and a body that has never once been tested against pavement. Collecting knowledge is not the same as creating results. Knowledge sitting in your head is just inventory on a shelf. It only becomes worth something the second you drag it out into the world and use it, fail with it, and fix it. If you've been mistaking "I learned something today" for "I did something today," drop this in the comments. I choose results over comfort. Try this test on yourself this week. At the end of each day, ask one honest question. Did I learn about the thing, or did I actually do the thing? Not both counted as equal. Really separate them. You'll probably notice something uncomfortable. Most of your productive hours were spent absorbing information that changed nothing about your actual output. That's not a character flaw. It's just how a curious, capable mind naturally drifts when nobody's watching it closely. The fix isn't complicated, even though it feels hard in the moment. It's setting a rule for yourself. No new information until the last piece of information gets used. No new tutorial until you've applied the last one. No new plan until you've tested the old one against reality. That single rule, followed consistently, does more for a sharp mind than another 100 hours of research ever will. Number 3. The reward system that keeps you stuck. Let's go one layer deeper, because this explains why the last trap is so hard to walk away from. Your brain releases a small wave of dopamine the moment you plan something exciting, not when you finish it, when you plan it. Picture the goal, design the perfect routine, map out every step in beautiful detail. All of that triggers pleasure before a single real thing has happened. This system exists for a good reason. It's what gets you excited enough to start. But for a mind that loves detail and complexity, planning can turn into an endless private source of that reward, completely disconnected from actually doing anything. You can build the perfect daily schedule for a new skill for weeks and never once practice it. You can design flawless training plans, meal plans, or study systems and feel genuinely proud of them while the actual skill sits exactly where it was the day you started. Your brain, in the moment, cannot always tell the difference between "I'm getting ready to win" and "I already won." Both feel similar. both bring a little wave of relief and pride. And because planning carries zero risk, no chance of a bad performance, no public stumble, no failed attempt, your brain quietly starts preferring it over the real thing. This is how sharp, capable people end up as expert planners of a life they never actually live. Machiavelli had no patience for this. He compared fortune to a violent river that floods without warning. You can build walls and dams to prepare for it, sure. But the walls only matter if you build them before the flood hits, and building requires getting your hands dirty. A man who spends the whole season sketching the perfect wall on paper drowns right alongside the man who did nothing at all. If you've spent more hours planning your goal than pursuing it, drop this in the comments. Preparation is not achievement. Notice how good it feels to open a brand new notebook and write down a fresh plan. That feeling isn't imagined. It's real, chemical, and completely disconnected from whether the plan ever gets followed. Companies that sell planners and trackers understand this better than almost anyone. They're not really selling organization. They're selling that little hit of dopamine that comes from imagining your future self already succeeding. There's nothing wrong with planning. A plan built in 5 minutes and tested immediately is worth more than a plan refined for 5 months and never tested at all. The moment planning stops serving action and starts replacing it, it quietly turns from a tool into an escape. And the tricky part is, from the inside, both versions feel almost identical. The only real way to tell them apart is to check how much has actually changed in the real world since you started planning. Number 4. The hidden cost of being called smart. Somewhere back when you were young, someone probably told you that you were smart. It felt good. It was meant kindly, and it may have quietly done you damage you're still carrying today. A researcher named Carol Dweck ran an experiment where she gave children a simple task. Afterward, she praised one group by saying, "You're so smart." She praised another group by saying, "You worked really hard." Then she offered both groups a choice: an easy task they were guaranteed to succeed at, or a harder one that would stretch them and risk failure. The kids praised for effort mostly picked the hard task. The kids praised for being smart mostly picked the easy one. Think about what that means. When you're told over and over that you're smart, intelligence stops being a tool you use and starts becoming a label you have to protect. And if failing at something hard threatens that label, the safest move is to avoid hard things altogether. Stick to challenges you're guaranteed to win, so nothing ever puts a crack in the image. That fear doesn't disappear when childhood ends. It follows people for decades. It shows up as staying inside your comfort zone in the gym, sticking with the workouts you already dominate instead of the ones that expose your weak points. It shows up in creative work, refusing to try a new style because your current one already earns compliments. It shows up as never picking up a beginner skill in public because starting from zero again feels unbearable when you've spent years being the smart one. If you've ever avoided something hard just to protect how sharp you look, drop this in the comments. My worth is not a test score. Dweck's research didn't stop at that first experiment. She followed these patterns for years and found something even more revealing. Kids praised for being smart were more likely to lie about their scores just to protect the image, while kids praised for effort stayed far more honest because their sense of worth was never tied to one fixed number in the first place. One small sentence of praise, repeated enough times in childhood, quietly builds two completely different relationships with failure that last a lifetime. Watch how this plays out in adults who were once the smart one. They read the instructions for something new and get frustrated within minutes if it doesn't click immediately, because struggling feels like evidence against the identity they've carried since childhood. Meanwhile, someone who was never labeled that way expects to struggle, expects to look clumsy at first, and pushes through it without any of that extra emotional weight. The label that was supposed to be a gift quietly became a cage. Number 5. When identity blocks growth. Once your intelligence becomes your identity, a mistake stops being just a mistake. It becomes proof, or at least it feels that way, that you were never as sharp as everyone thought. That kind of pressure quietly reshapes your behavior in a very specific direction. You start avoiding anything where you might look ordinary. You stop trying the new sport that everyone else already plays well, because starting as the worst one in the group feels like exposure, not fun. You stop showing anyone your first drafts, your rough sketches, your messy early attempts, because not perfect yet feels dangerously close to not good enough. You stop entering the competition, the race, the challenge, until you're certain you'll place well, even though almost nobody who eventually wins waited around for that guarantee. Slowly, without one dramatic moment, protecting your image quietly replaces chasing your future. It's a trade you barely notice happening. You swap growth for safety, one small avoided risk at a time. And there's a cruel irony in all of it. The more naturally gifted someone is, the more they sometimes believe they have to lose by trying, because their whole identity has been resting on already being good instead of still improving. A person with less natural ability never had that trap set for them. They started from zero, got comfortable looking like a beginner, and kept climbing without that extra weight on their back. If you've been choosing to look good instead of getting great, drop this in the comments. I would rather grow than look perfect. There's a version of this trap that hides behind something that looks almost noble. It sounds like, "I'm just being realistic," or "I don't want to make promises I can't keep." On the surface, that sounds mature and grounded. But peel back one layer, and often what's really being protected isn't realism at all. It's the comfort of never having to fully commit and find out whether your best effort would have been enough. Staying vague keeps you safe from ever truly testing yourself. Now picture someone with less raw ability who commits completely, fails in front of people, and gets back up anyway. In the short term, they look foolish. Over years, that willingness to be seen struggling compounds into real skill and real toughness, while the person quietly protecting their image stays exactly where they started, still impressive on paper, still explaining to themselves why the timing isn't quite right yet. Number 6. The comfort zone between dreams and action. There's a pattern you've probably lived through yourself. Big dream, real passion in your voice when you describe it, a clear picture in your head of exactly what it would look like. And yet, month after month, year after year, it never actually starts. Sharp minds are often incredible dreamers. They can picture the finished song, the finished painting, the marathon finish line, the fully learned language, in vivid, almost cinematic detail. But seeing it clearly in your head is not the same as moving one single step toward it in real life. What usually fills the gap between the dream and the action is a long list of small, safe, familiar tasks. Reorganizing your gear, researching more tips, rewatching tutorials, cleaning your workspace. Activities that feel productive but ask nothing risky of you. They give you the sensation of forward motion while your feet stay planted exactly where they've always been. Real growth doesn't happen inside that safe zone. It happens right at the edge of it. The first ugly attempt at the new instrument, the first slow, humiliating lap around the track, the first painting you make that looks nothing like what you pictured. Growth lives in the space where you don't yet know what you're doing, and you do it anyway, badly, in front of nobody, or in front of everybody. Machiavelli wrote about fortune favoring the bold, the idea that opportunity opens up for people willing to act under pressure and uncertainty, not for people waiting for perfect footing. Waiting for the perfect moment is usually just fear wearing a more respectable outfit. If your dream has looked exactly the same for years while nothing around it has moved, drop this in the comments. Discomfort is the price of growth. Ask yourself something right now. Picture your biggest dream, the one you talk about with real excitement when someone asks, "Has it looked exactly the same for the last year?" 2 years, maybe longer. Same vision, same energy in your voice, same lack of visible progress underneath it? If so, you're not missing a dream, you're missing exposure to the discomfort that dream actually requires. Comfort zones are convincing precisely because they never feel like traps from the inside. They feel like patience, like responsible timing. I'll start once things settle down. I'll try once I feel more ready. Each excuse sounds reasonable on its own. Stack enough of them together over a few years, and you'll notice every single one kept you exactly inside the boundary of what already felt safe and familiar. Number 7. Thinking is not the same as executing. There's a distinction that changes everything the moment you actually understand it. Intelligence and executive function are two completely different skills, and having one does not guarantee the other. Intelligence is your ability to understand a problem, notice patterns, come up with ideas. Executive function is your ability to organize those ideas, start on them, stay on them, and carry them across the finish line weeks or months after the initial excitement has worn off. You can be brilliant enough to see exactly how something should be built and still watch it never get built, because building takes scheduling, repetition, boring maintenance, and showing up on the days you feel nothing at all. This is why so many sharp people around you have brilliant half-finished projects gathering dust, the instrument they were getting really good at before it went quiet in the corner of the room, the half-written story sitting untouched in a folder, the training plan abandoned right around week 3. It's not that the ideas were bad. The muscle needed to carry an idea from thought to finished reality, structure, patience, follow-through, was simply never trained, because nobody ever mentioned it needed training on its own. The good news buried in all of this is simple. Executive function, unlike raw intelligence, grows through repetition. It's a muscle, not a fixed trait. Small deadlines, tiny daily habits, breaking a huge goal into steps so small they feel almost too easy to skip. None of that requires being smarter. It requires structure, and structure can be built by absolutely anyone willing to practice it. If you've ever had a brilliant idea quietly die because nothing was scheduled, tracked, or finished, drop this in the comments. Ideas are cheap. Execution is everything. There's a stretch in the middle of almost every project where the excitement of starting has worn off and the finish line still isn't close enough to feel real. People sometimes call it the messy middle, and it's exactly where most ambitious efforts quietly die. The beginning is fun because everything feels new. The end is fun because the finish is finally visible. The middle is long, repetitive, and honestly kind of boring. And that's exactly where discipline matters more than raw talent ever will. A person with average natural ability but strong follow-through will push through that boring middle almost automatically, out of pure habit. A brilliant person without that structure feels the same boredom just as intensely, gets pulled towards some newer, shinier idea, and quietly abandons the project 2/3 of the way through, right before it would have actually paid off. Look back honestly, and you'll probably find your own version of this graveyard, things that were 70% finished and never touched again. Number 8. 5 psychological traps that quietly destroy potential. Let's name the 5 traps directly, because once you can name a thing, you can finally see it working against you. The sedative of recognition. This is chasing praise for being clever instead of chasing an actual finished result. Compliments feel wonderful in the moment, but they can quietly replace the drive to build something real because the emotional need underneath gets satisfied without a single real output ever existing. The paradox of praise. Just like Dweck's research showed, being praised for being smart instead of for effort teaches you to protect your image rather than expand your ability. Slowly, that paradox pushes talented people toward the safe and easy path instead of the harder path where real mastery actually gets built. The asymmetric standard. This is holding yourself to a standard so impossibly high that nothing you make ever feels ready to show anyone. Sharp minds notice every flaw in their own work with painful clarity, so they keep polishing something that was actually finished weeks ago, terrified of releasing anything less than perfect. The asynchronous mind. A fast mind gets bored with slow progress. It gets frustrated watching things unfold at a normal human pace. It gets pulled toward the next shiny idea before the first one is done, leaving behind a trail of half-finished attempts instead of one single finished masterpiece. The contempt reflex. This might be the most self-destructive trap of all, a quiet, sometimes barely conscious feeling of superiority toward people who are less sharp, but somehow further ahead. Instead of studying what those people are actually doing right, the clever mind dismisses them to protect its own ego and learns absolutely nothing in the process. You cannot learn a single lesson from someone you've already decided is beneath you. Each of these traps runs quietly in the background. None of them announce themselves with a warning label. They simply accumulate year after year until one day a genuinely gifted person looks up and realizes a decade slipped by with very little to show for it. If you spotted yourself in even one of these 5 traps, drop this in the comments. I see the trap and I choose to break it. What makes these 5 traps so dangerous is that they feed each other in a loop. The sedative of recognition pushes you to chase praise instead of finished work, which strengthens the paradox of praise, which makes you protect your image harder, which feeds the asymmetric standard because nothing feels ready to release, which leaves projects unfinished, which fuels the asynchronous mind's frustration with how slow everything feels, which can curdle into the contempt reflex as a defense, dismissing people who are outpacing you so you don't have to face how far you've actually fallen behind. Breaking that loop doesn't take more intelligence. It takes one small, deliberate interruption at a time. When the asymmetric standard whispers, "This still isn't good enough to show anyone," the interruption is picking a hard deadline and putting it out into the world anyway. When the contempt reflex whispers, "They only got ahead because they got lucky," the interruption is asking that person one honest question about what they actually did differently. None of these interruptions require brilliance. They require humility. And ironically, being sharp often makes humility harder to reach, because a clever mind is very good at making its own excuses sound convincing, even to itself. Number 9, the wake-up call most people ignore. There's a specific moment a lot of sharp, capable people go through eventually, and it's brutal. It's the moment they finally compare their potential against their actual results. It hits during a quiet, ordinary evening, or a milestone birthday, or a night they can't sleep. A moment where they picture where they thought they'd be by now, against where they actually are. And the person they compare themselves to isn't always someone more gifted. Often it's someone who started with less, moved slower on paper, but simply never stopped moving. That comparison brings a very specific kind of pain. Not the pain of failing, because failing at least means you tried something real. This is the pain of absence. Years spent thinking instead of doing. Ideas that were good enough to work, but never made it past a notebook page. A version of a life that was always available and never chosen. What matters most about this moment is that it doesn't have to wait until you're 50, looking back at decades from the sidelines. It can happen right now, tonight, while this video is still playing, if you're willing to be honest with yourself about which of these traps has quietly had its hands on you. The decision on the other side of that honesty is simple to say and hard to actually live. Stop collecting more knowledge and start using what you already have. Stop refining the plan and start testing it in the real world. Stop protecting the image of being the sharp one and start accepting the risk of looking like a total beginner again. Machiavelli understood something brutal about how history remembers people. It rarely remembers the most thoughtful ones. It remembers the ones who moved at the right moment, even before they felt fully ready. That's the trade every talented person eventually has to make. Trading the comfort of thinking for the risk of actually doing. What makes this kind of regret heavier than ordinary regret is that it isn't tied to one single bad choice you can point back to and learn from. It's built out of thousands of small, quiet, non-decisions. The attempt you didn't make, the class you didn't sign up for, the piece you didn't finish, the first step you didn't take. None of them felt significant in the moment. Each one felt like a small, reasonable delay. But time doesn't care about your reasons. It keeps moving whether you move with it or not. And one day the small, reasonable delays add up into a decade that's just gone. There's real hope buried inside all of this, though. The exact forces that caused the stall can be reversed starting today. You don't need to undo 10 years in one afternoon. You need to break the pattern once, right now, in one specific place in your life. Start the thing you keep postponing. Finish the thing that's been sitting at 90% for months. Show up as a total beginner at something on purpose today. The size of the action matters far less than the simple fact that it interrupts the loop. Let's bring it all together. Intelligence is only potential until it turns into consistent action. It's the raw material, not the finished thing. It's the engine, not the destination. You can own the fastest engine on the entire road, and if it never leaves the driveway, it will never take you one single mile. Real progress doesn't come from endless understanding. It comes from daily, repetitive, unglamorous execution, showing up and doing the work on the days your motivation has completely disappeared, and your excuses sound perfectly reasonable. Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago, and it keeps proving itself true today. The people who win are rarely the ones who know the most. They're the ones who keep building, keep showing up, keep taking the next small step, even when progress feels invisible and the results are painfully slow. So don't become the genius who never wins. Don't be the person everyone describes as so talented they could have done anything, followed by a sentence that starts with "but." Become the person whose actions finally catch up to their potential. If even one part of this video made you sit back and think hard about your own life, that means it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Now here's your part. Take one single idea from everything you just heard and act on it before today ends. Before you go, do a few things. Drop your affirmation in the comments. I genuinely want to read which one hit hardest. If this video challenged you in a good way, tap that like button because it helps this message reach one more person who needed to hear it today. And subscribe to the channel because we're going to keep breaking down the psychology behind human potential and the sharpest minds in history. Content built to push you forward, not just keep you entertained. You already have the mind. Now go build something the mind alone was never going to build for you.